Welcome to Real Mob Stories. This is your host, James Proctor, and I hope everyone's doing well today. In today's show, I'm going to talk about who's back in the genre and my thoughts on this news. Also, September is the 1 year anniversary of a big event in the history of the show and how things have changed for the channel as a result. We'll also get to OC Shorts and the problem that he has, while also giving you all of my picks for the best mob history channels not hosted by someone affiliated with the mob. So please hit the like button and also consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. And without further delay, on to the rest of the presentation. So a year ago, something happened which changed the channel forever. And that was when my friend and former partner Lee Cole went to Arizona to take up Sammy Gravano's challenge that if you have a problem with him, just come see me and tell it to my face. And so I'm going to give you my thoughts on it because it's been a year since that's happened, and man, things have just changed so much for the channel and for the genre and for even Sammy Gravano. Sammy Gravano's now a born again Christian, and so maybe that meeting that Lee did maybe caused Sammy to reevaluate a few things, but I doubt it. So anyway, what happened was about a year ago, Lee. So it was in September a year ago, and Lee was going to Arizona anyway. He was going to see some relatives, and while he was out there, he told me, "Hey, I'm going to, run up on Sammy Gravano," and I didn't think he was going to be serious. I just thought that he was just saying that as a joke, and then he said, "No, I'm being serious about it." And he was doing all this filming of the area and all that. And so the biggest challenge was how to find where Sammy was at, because if you go into all of, like, because I'm a good researcher, and I went into the Arizona Secretary of State. I looked at where everything was at, and everything was except for one company that was affiliated with Sammy went to like a virtual mailbox, like a mailbox, etc. But Sammy made one mistake, and he had one of his companies set up that actually had the address where he lives and does the filming. So Sammy actually the last couple of years has lived in it's a warehouse, and he does his filming and all that, but also he lives there. And so Lee went and took him up on it. I didn't think that Lee would actually follow through with it. I think that what happened was he went there the night before, just filmed around or whatever, and then the next day he drove by, and Sammy happened to be outside with his son, and Lee pulled up. And the thing was, for people that have seen the video, which you could see here, is that Lee never got out of his vehicle. He called for Sammy, and Sammy and his son came towards the car, and so Lee was asking him about Alan Kaiser. And what's interesting to me is Sammy seemed to, he was surprised at first, but it's kind of funny that he was cordial at first, but things went downhill pretty fast because his son Gerard saw that Lee was recording, and so that's when Gerard came up and hit Lee in the temple. And so when this happened, Lee called me, and he said, "Guess what happened? I saw Sammy, but I got hit and I can't find the phone. They took my phone." And I was so devastated because I was like thinking no one's going to believe it, that Lee went there and talked to Sammy, because, there's no proof. And so, I was like, thinking, wow, we could have, really had something, especially, have that on camera where he got hit. And anyway, um, happened to be the next morning, the phone was actually in the back seat of the rental car. And what had happened was, I guess during the scuffle, the phone fell back into to the back, and it was there, and then the rest is history. And what happened after that was that, the channel really just you know, exploded. And a lot of it was because of what happened with Sammy. And I believe I started with the channel a year ago, I think it was February, March of 23. And we had 7,000 subscribers. And then last um, September, we had just crossed over the 10,000 subscriber mark. And now we're what, almost 33,000. So, it's really, I'm really, pleased with the growth. Also, humbled by it, that we've had so many people that have been willing to subscribe. And yeah, I think a lot of it's, based upon Lee. Not everyone was happy. I would say that, you had, a lot of the people that are, Sammy fanboys, they were coming in and were giving Lee a lot of hell about it. And, we had thousands of comments. And even to this day, we still get comments about, what Lee did. And, but at the same time, we had a lot of people that said, yeah, that was really ballsy in Lee to do what he did. I'll tell you, I wouldn't have done it. I didn't think that, that he would really do it, but, you know, that's what happened. And then, the same thing that happened was, Lee has always been good with allowing me to kind of have my own identity within the show. And it was about that time when, I was saying, I really want to do more history. And at first we weren't sure how to really incorporate that because it's difficult to do history. Not everyone's interested in it. You kind of have a small subset of the people that subscribe that are into, the old history, the deep history. And so, we decide, well, why don't we just do it as 60-second shorts, basically do the history of Cosa Nostra 60 seconds at a time. And, it really took off. Thankful to all of you that, the channel has grown and all that. And guess who's back? It's Lee Cole. I put up a community post a couple of days ago and mentioned that he's got a new channel called Five Families Productions. And so, Lee always enjoyed being in this space, in the mob genre, but the issue was that the wrestling channel was just taking too much time. And the only way that we could handle both channels at the time was, for me to take the mob channel, and then Lee was going to do the channel on wrestling. And anyway, Lee is actually, out of town. He's on a road trip. He's going to be up in Boston and New York area. But anyway, he's going to be building content for the Five Families Productions. And what's going to be different about his channel than before, it's going to be mob content, but it's also going to be sprinkled in with politics and whatever else is on Lee's mind. And, I know it's going to be entertaining. I'm looking forward to it. He's already put, I think, a couple of videos out, but I just wanted to encourage everyone to go over there to Five Families Productions. You'll see the link in the description, and subscribe to his channel. I'm sure that he definitely appreciate it. And moving on to the top 5 shows in the mob history genre. And these are shows that I follow. And, I'm not going to do this in any order because, I like all of them, honestly. But I'm looking at this only regarding mob channels that are primarily history and not hosted by anyone connected with organized crime. On Labor Day, I I put together a list, and this was based on the top shows by number of subscribers. But this list is going to be mob channels focused on history. 5 shows that I think are worth watching, and what I like about them and what I don't like about them. And so, yeah, I'm sure there's other channels out there that's worth being on this list, and definitely want to hear from you. If there's certain channels that delve into the history of Cosa Nostra, I'd love to hear about them. And and so here's my list. So first we have Gary Jenkins. Gary Jenkins has been on the show. 4 of the 5 people on this list, by the way, have been on the show. And Gary focuses more on the Midwest. He's from Kansas City. He was a detective with, I believe, Kansas City Police Department. He's got a lot of great insights. Besides being formerly in law enforcement, he's an author. He's been on some documentaries, and when it comes to anything dealing with Kansas City mob, also going into Las Vegas and some of that, he's totally an expert. And it's hard. I don't really have an issue with this show. It's hard to criticize him, I guess, if you're looking for more New York or East Coast mob content, he might not be your guy. But, even so, he'll do occasional shows on the East Coast families, and he's a true gentleman. I really like Gary. Like I said, he's been on a couple of one time he's been on, but he's really, I think, a smart guy. Has a great show, and definitely worth checking out. Second guy, second guy that we're going to talk about is Jeff Canarsie. And I've had him on a couple of times, and he's been around for a long time. And what I like about Jeff is that he is very focused on history. In fact, I know he's doing like a multi-part series about the history of the Philly mob right now. And he's got a lot of knowledge when it comes to Philly. And then he's also the best out there at researching court documents. I mean, and that's something I appreciate about him. He's willing to, not just take, the word of, informants or other people. He'll actually go in and look at the court documents, which I think is great. And he also has a great audio setup. I think he's got a really good voice for doing podcast, and his audio setup, whatever he has, I think it's top notch. And if I have anything to criticize about him and his show, it's I wish he'd allow comments. I think that it hurts his viewer engagement. I'm not sure. I think I know why he doesn't allow comments, and that's because you do have a lot of people out there that just put nonsense out there, or they're trolls. But at the same time, for me personally, I try not to delete comments. I um, monitor them. I think as long as I don't mind being criticized. That's just part of it. But very occasionally will I, very it's very seldom will I actually remove a comment or whatever. But I noticed that Jeff doesn't allow comments on his show. Now we'll go to Jeff Nadeau, and you know, I, I actually like his show. I think he does a lot of good stuff. He has a lot of guests. He puts out a lot of content. He does sign nearly every day, and I'll tell you, he's probably the best at the social media branding. I mean, he's got a thriving TikTok. He gets into all the different social media platforms, and I think he does that better than anyone out there. And I think that. people looking to build a brand, with a channel, you have to look at it more than just YouTube. You got to look at, your TikTok, your Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all that stuff. And that's something that Jeff's, really good about. And you also, give him credit. He will talk about mobsters that aren't well known, and he'll kind of delve outside of the five families, and he does that even with the knowledge that the show might not get as many views, but he still does that. And I think that he's not bad with his research. And the only negative I have with him is that for me personally, you know I value all of the viewers. I know you have viewers that will, troll and say stuff like that, but you know, I, I let it. I don't get upset by it. But Jeff, many times during his lives, you'll hear him getting upset with these viewers that try to put in, wise ass remarks. Personally, I handle things like that differently. Also, I don't do the lives like Jeff does, and I'm sure it gets frustrating to, have to deal with that type of stuff. And he doesn't have any moderators I know of on his show. So I mean, he's trying to handle all that by himself. Now number 4, Wise Guy TV. This is a very underrated channel, I'll tell you that. I really like his content. He's very professional, scripted. I'll tell you, he never mispronounces an Italian name. I also could see he puts in a lot of time and effort for his videos, and you definitely, if you're into the history of Cosa Nostra, especially, looking at stuff, maybe from, I don't know, 1970 on, you're going to find a lot of great content with Wise Guy TV, and he's a great guy. We've had him on the show as well. And the only thing I wish he could put out more content, but I know he's busy with work. He has a lot going on with life. And the other thing is that he's a perfectionist, so he'll spend a lot of time to perfect a video, and it might take, he might not have something out for 3 or 4 weeks, and so that's just him. The quality of the content he puts out is very good, and I think you guys will really enjoy Wise Guy TV. And then finally we go to OC Shorts. I'll tell you, he's the gold standard. He's the best of the best. He is the one content creator that I inspire my craft to be like. I just feel that when you look at his research, he does a great job with that. He's professional. He spends a lot of time with putting together the content. And I love how he cites sources he uses in the shows. That's something that most of us don't do a good job of. But if we're using sources of information that other people have pulled together, I think it's important to be able to cite them. They went through a lot of work to come up with it, and so it's just the right thing to do. I like James with OC Shorts. He's always been a gentleman with me. He has we've corresponded through email. He'll comment from time to time on shows, and so for me, I you can't go wrong with OC Shorts. Also, his production, he puts out his production the same time each week. I think he has a couple of things a week, and so it's always at the same time. And so, again, that's a professional way of doing stuff. And so, like I said, that's how I aspire to be um, like what he does. And so now his problem. What is his problem? Well, the problem is that he's got thieves that take and reuse his content. And I'm not talking about people we know in this genre. These are people from other countries that will take his stuff and reuse it, and they're doing it to just to make money off of it. And what I mean by that is that we have AI now, and it's frustrating to see these guys from, they're from Russia, they're from China, they're from um, Pakistan or India, and so they'll use AI to create this content, and it hasn't, and it's horrible, but you'll get hundreds of thousands of views, and these channels will have hundreds of, they'll have thousands of subscribers. And what it is, these guys know how to deal with the algorithm. They know how to do that, but the quality of the content, it's inaccurate. Um, they don't have any passion or desire to put out good content. The only thing they're wanting to do is to make money off of it. But that's the AI part of it. But what's happening with OC Shorts, you'll see these other channels that actually steal the content, and they make shows from it using what he had already put out there. And that's a problem. And that speaks to him being a the popularity of his channel, how many subscribers he has, and all that. But it's just disgusting to see what you have out there. And most of them they're not from this country, they're from other countries, and they're just stealing, trying to make money and capitalize off them. I know that James at OC Shorts, he's got a full-time job. He takes care of a family. He spends a lot of time putting together a show, and he's like me. He doesn't do any sort of AI. Everything's manual, and that's hard. You spend a lot of time trying to put these shows together, and to have it stolen like that, it's just I don't know what to say. But that's, and I don't know what you can do about it. I guess you can complain to YouTube or whatever, but you're not going to talk to a real person at YouTube either. So I guess that that's one of the things that you have to deal with as a content creator, especially as you get to the level of where OC Shorts is. But I'll tell you, he's the gold standard in my opinion, and you can't go wrong with watching his content. So those are the 5 shows that I think do a good job, that are passionate and respectful of the history of the mafia and Cosa Nostra, and that's what we're trying to do here as well. And to conclude, just want to tell you what's up in the future. So I'm working on a real treat for you guys. I'm putting together a mini documentary about a mob family with fascinating details. I think it'll surprise you. And it's going to be an example of the content that you'll be seeing when we launch Patreon very, very soon. And, I'm working on the setup of Patreon, and then I'll let you know when it's ready. Also, if you want to learn more, I spoke about it on the last show. And I also encourage people to watch the mini documentary I did of Anthony Tony Riella. That was in the last show. And so if you go to like the last 8 minutes of the show I did, that's where the Anthony Riella documentary begins. Also, I did an interview with Chris Colombo, where we talked about his thoughts on the Five Families documentary, and he's actually part of it. And so I'm working on finalizing the video and be dropping it this week. Wanted to mention also, if you're interested or are involved in sports betting, Chris Colombo has taken action with Chris Colombo, and the channel is back to doing his weekly shows. And so last year, Chris won 83% of the spread, and on the picks that he did last year. So he'll reveal his pick each week, I believe. He's been doing this for over 20 years, and he's never had a losing season. And the reason for his success is that he only does one game a week. So what he might not do in quantity of picks, he makes up for it in quality. And he's also there to educate. He wants to teach people how to gamble the right way. so you don't lose your ass. So, I've really gotten to know Chris the last several months, and he's a real gentleman. So, anyway, I'll have the links to all these shows I talked about today in the description. That's all I have for you. I hope you all have a great day, and we'll be back soon with more real mob stories. I'd love to hear your comments, and please don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel if you like the content I'm putting out. With that said, take care, stay safe, and God bless you always.